resident Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Australia, and welcome to my weekly online class to go. So for those who are new either to my Facebook page or my YouTube channel, this is my weekly live video, and I do it as a class. So we make 3 cards, and for anyone who places an order of $75 or more before shipping and after any Stampin' Rewards redemption in my online store before the end of Saturday night, I will send you the card kits to make 2 each of the 3 cards from tonight's class. So you'll get all the cardstock, designer series paper and ribbon that you need. Any die cuts that are from the featured bundle are not included. You get the cardstock, but you will need to die cut those yourselves, because if you happen to be using a different stamp set, so if you don't have the one that I'm using and you're using something different, it doesn't make sense to include die cuts for images that aren't going to coordinate with what you're using. So you will get the cardstock for those, and you can die cut yourself. Any dies or punches that are not part of the featured bundle are included, so all of those ones will be included. And for those who aren't aware, for the next, so from tomorrow until Friday, there is free shipping. So 18th to the 20th of Feb, there is free shipping on offer. So I highly recommend, if you are going to order, that you wait till tomorrow and do it sometime between tomorrow and the end of Friday night. All right, so this week's featured bundle is the Fragrant Layers bundle, and I'll just switch my camera around. So this is the stamp set, so it's 2 set stamping. You've got the large floral image, and then the fill for that, and the leaves, and then a smaller flower and some sentiments. And then the dies, you've got dies to cut. Actually, I'll take it out. It's a bit easier to see, and they're a lot bigger than they look here. So you've got dies to cut the outline, the sort of textured shapes. You've got this sort of frame one, which I am going to use in the class tonight, and then some individual flowers and leaves and some sentiment labels. So let's move these back out of the way. And I'm a little bit behind tonight. The power's gone out. We have power, we have backup, but I'm a little bit behind just getting a few things sorted, so bear with me. So these are the 3 cards for tonight. So this one, which is the first one, that just uses the stamped image, so the stamp and then the two-step stamping. These 2 use that sort of frame die cut that I mentioned. This one without any stamping, and then this one with some stamping. All right, let's get started now. One thing I'm going to do with this one, and hopefully this works, I've done it once, and that was earlier tonight, so we'll see how we go. We have a new stamp positioner tool. At the moment, it is only available to new demonstrators. So if you join in the month of Feb, it's included in your starter kit as an added bonus. It will become available to purchase at some point in the future. We're just not sure when yet, but I thought for this one, at least for the main second step of the 2-step stamping, I would use the positioner for that, and show you the tool and how to do it with those sort of tools. I've done it once, so yeah, it worked the first time. I may well mess it up, but we'll see. We will give it a go. So for this one, we have, so this is a strawberry slush card base, and then I've got some paper from, this is the Mixed Up Patterns pack. So I'm using the Strawberry Slush one. See, here's one I prepared earlier. So if I mess it up, we have one to go with. And I've got a couple of spares there and some cardstock for the sentiment. So what we'll do, and I'm using the Strawberry Slush ribbon. I will do this, I'll stick this down first just so I don't forget to add the ribbon before I stick it to the card base, because I'm likely to get distracted and stick it down, forget the ribbon. So let's do this bit while it is still on my mind before I forget. And I need to remember to go a little bit lower than I did on that one. That one I ended up going, it still works, I just intended for it to be a little lower down, so we'll go about there, I think, somewhere around there. Alright, so tear and tape for the ribbon. Down, if the ribbon will sit nicely for me, and I'll just add a bit more to this end. There we go. Hi Dimity, how are you? Nice to see you. Okay, so a little bit lower than I did in my sample card. I think that was actually my second sample. So I'll get that down. I'll bring my card base out before I forget. Okay. Alrighty, so that is done. Let's move that out of the way, just clear a bit of space for the next part. So because I'm using a die cut, and also we only have one plate at this stage for the stamp and positioner. Hopefully they will come out with more, but we only have one at the moment. So I'm going to stamp the outline image just as per normal, without the positioner, but I'll use the positioner for the two-step. Plus I've already got the other image on the plate, so rather than taking it off and changing them around, I will just do this one without, and then we will bring the positioner in for the next part. So we need to line this one up so that, because this is quite a large image, so we just need to angle it a bit, and you're kind of going the sort of longest points, you are trying to go sort of in between those two points there. So just rotate and angle it. And we're not going for anything perfectly centered or anything like that, so don't worry too much about that. So that is good. I'm happy with that. Now let's see if I can reproduce what I did earlier where it actually worked. So this is the new positioner tool. So I've got some grid paper on. So there's little sort of nodules in here, and the grid paper, which is a separate purchase, that has pre-punched little holes so you can fit that in there. And it comes, you've got both inches and centimeters. This is the Fragrant Layers set. Dimity, give me a sec. This one. So it's two-step snapping, so we're going to use the positioner for the second part. Now, so I've got the grid paper down because, and you don't need the grid paper for everything, but for this one we do, and you've got the little magnets with the little tabs. If you have or did have the Stamparatus, I still have my Stamparatus. I love my Stamparatus. The magnets are nowhere near as strong as the Stamparatus ones, which is good in some respects, not so much in others. But so you'll see there's, and I don't know how we can see it on the camera, but there is a little groove in between there. So when you've got a square or rectangle, you can put your cardstock fits in between those two nodules and then line it up in there, and that makes it much easier when you are stamping, because you can do your first image, take it off, and then if the paper moves, it's fine, you can put it back in place, put the magnets back down, get your second image and stamp it. So that works really well for your square or rectangle images. Not so well with die cuts, and sometimes you just, because of the because you've got an angle, if you're going with something straight, it can be kind of awkward having to sort of turn when you're used to everything being straight. If you've got your sentiment you want going straight across, having to turn it to go across, it takes a bit of getting used to. So what I'm doing for this one, and I've already marked where I want the piece to go. So let's see if I can line it back up, and let me just check. So what I did when I was first setting this up, I put my paper, my die cut where I wanted it, put the stamp over the top, so not on the plate. I just put it over the image so it was lined up where I wanted it, and then put the plate down, press down. It's got little spring pieces, so when you first put it down, it's not touching the image. So then pick it up, and you may find, well, you probably will find that even with the magnets down, it'll move your cardstock, so you need to re-line it up, which is where having the markings really helps. And I think I need to flip this around anyway, because I think I've got it the wrong way around. Let me double check that looks better. So I've got a bunch of markings for my piece. Let's see if I can actually recreate what I did. I'm going to try and line this up with my original markings as best I can. And if you forget which way it goes, remember the Stampin' Up! Logo is down the bottom closest to you. So I'm going to put that over the top, And apologies for the glare. I'm going to move this slightly just so hopefully you can see it without the glare. And excuse my head that's going to end up on the screen. I'm going to press down slightly just to check if that is roughly where I want it. It's almost. It is slightly off, and that may be more that I moved it before I put, well, it moved when I was marking it, so I think that is looking better. So fingers crossed we will, and I haven't got a lot of room here, we will ink this up. Now if you've got small images in particular, Stamp and Spots, the little square ones, are a really good idea. And I just got a little bit of, I think that's a little bit of adhesive on there, but it doesn't really matter if you get ink on the plate because it's not going to transfer to your paper, because it shouldn't be rocking just because of the design of it. So if you've got ink on there like I do, it should be fine. Having said that, I am going to clean that up just because I don't want it sitting on there for any longer than necessary. But I did do one earlier and I had ink everywhere and it was fine, but I don't want that sitting on the plate and staining it. It shouldn't stain it, but although if you're not using the grid paper and you get lots of ink on that base plate, that will stain, particularly with something like reds and pinks. All right, let's see how we go. Bear in mind this is only my second attempt at using this. I'm going to place that down, just double check. I'll move it forward slightly, hopefully out of most of the glare, for you at least. Excuse my head, I'm going to try and go from the side a bit. Alright, I'm going to bring it down just so that I can see. I think it's close enough. It's not perfect, but I think I hope it's close enough. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. And of course, if you want it darker or you didn't get enough pressure in a particular spot, you can just ink it up again and go back down. Now for the leaves, I'm going to do those by hand, so not with the positioner, but with this, the advantage with this is you can put all three leaf images down and do them all at once, so you don't have to do them individually. But I will, for tonight, do them individually. And one thing to be careful, or just to pay attention to with the leaf images, so the 3, that's easy. But if you look at the 2, and it's probably hard to see on camera, but they're not identical, but they are quite similar. So you do want to double check which is which before you stamp. It's probably a little easier to see on the images themselves. This one down here, the one on the left, is a little bit wider than that top one. So you want to look at them, so when you turn them sort of, I say upside down, this one is much wider on the left, so that one goes there. This one is the narrow one, that goes over there. But they are very similar, and it's very easy to say with this one, think it's this one, and then be trying to line it up going, oh, I think that's right, oh yeah, almost, no, and then realize it's actually the wrong stamp. So just double check which one you are using where before you stamp. But if you use the positioner tool, you can line them all up and stamp them all in one go. But I will stamp these and hopefully not mess them up. I really need to be right over them, but then you get the lovely view of my head in the camera, which nobody needs. So I will just do the best I can and we'll see how we go. I will move it a bit closer to me so that I can get it a little bit closer. Or I can be a little bit more over the top of it without you having to see the top of my head. Hopefully. Alright, let's go. There we go. For me, that's good. I'm happy with that. All right. So that's that bit. Then we just need to stamp the sentiment. When I find my piece of cardstock that I had for it, it is sitting around here somewhere. Because I had it out about a minute ago. I saw it. Where's it gone? It's hiding. It's probably sitting on the floor somewhere. Oh, there it is. There it is. Alrighty. So Secret C again for the sentiment. And I'm using the Just a Note sentiment for this one. And the 3-burner punch. So I'll put that into the center one. Alrighty. Bring the card back in. So that's going to sit there. So we'll just stick this one down, and you can go either way, doesn't really matter too much. I will go this way. And that's much better in terms of the height of the ribbon. There's a bit more space at either end, so I'm happy with that. Let's find my dimensionals. Where are my mini ones? My favorite color, in general, my favorite color is purple. As for specific Stampin' Up! Colors, that's tricky. So when I first started, it was Rich Raspberry. That is now gone. I'm just going to trim my, just noticed I need to trim my punch a bit. Bit difficult with the dimensionals on there, but so obviously Rich Raspberry is no longer current. I love Blackberry Bliss. That is definitely a favorite, and the lighter side of the Blackberry Bliss two-tone is very similar to Rich Raspberry. I do also love Gorgeous Grape, because in terms of general purples, that is the kind of purple that I really love, but I find I don't use it as much as you might think, given it's one of my favorite colors for my cards. But I do use a fair bit of Blackberry Bliss. And where have my, there they are. Just looking for my embellishments. So if I had to pick a specific one, probably Blackberry Bliss. And then for Christmas ones, I love Cherry Cobbler and, well, I do love Old Olive, and I also love Cherry Cobbler. When we had it, it was an in colour, Gumball Green. I still have quite a lot of Gumball Green, probably too much Gumball Green. That was a really good Christmas green. Oh, and we need to add the insert. Where's my spare one gone? I'm a bit all over the shop tonight. Don't mind me. What's your favourite, Dimity? I can tell you my least favourite. That one's easy. A Gumball Green, that was quite a few years ago. Oh, I do have it all written down as to which year we had the various ink colors, but it was quite a while. I will go and find out later, but yeah, it's an old one, but I do love it. All right, that is our first one done. So our second one, so this is our second one, so there is no stamping of the flowers for this one, just the sentiment. So this one is a good option if you are not a fan of two-step stamping. So let me just make sure I've got everything. I think I've got some extras there, that's fine. So I have some Petunia Pop cardstock, which is embossed with the, I think it's the lovely stripes folder, some of the Thoughtful Journey paper, and then some Pretty in Pink, and then so that's going to sit on there, and that will sit behind there. And I need to make sure I remember the ribbon, so I'm going to stick that on top there for now. And let's stamp the sentiment. Where is my Blackberry Bliss? Yeah, it's really hard to pick a favorite. Like as a general rule, purple is my favorite color, but when it comes to picking favorite colors to work with for card making, that can be quite different, because some, like, I find there are some that I use more than others, even though they're not necessarily my favorite colors in general, but they just work really well. And then certain colors just work really well with others, as you know, it's kind of obvious, but you know, if you have particular colors that you use a lot, and then you end up using other colors a lot because they coordinate, even though they may not be your preferred colors. And it is very hard to pick. Like, I love a lot of the greens, like, you know, I love Cherry Cobbler and Old Olive for Christmas, but I also love Garden Green with cherry cobbler or with real red, and shaded spruce and mossy meadow. So it's very difficult. But I suppose the advantage of liking lots of them is that you use more of them, and you don't restrict what you use too much, which is a good thing, because then you make a wider variety of stuff in a wider variety of colors. And I think generally it's just tends to be better, but yeah, that's just my opinion. There is really only one color that I avoid as much as possible, but I will still use it where it is appropriate to use and where it does happen to work, even though I'm not a huge fan. Sometimes it works for whatever you are making. So alright, so sentiment, we're just going with an angled cut for both the basic white, and I've well and truly messed that up. There we go, that's a bit better. So angle cut for both the basic white and the blackberry bliss, and get the glue off my hands, or at least try to. Alright, so let's add the ribbon before we get. Now this is, as you can see, this is my least favorite, petal pink. It's not pink, it's orange. That is one I never liked it. Unfortunately, they use it in a lot of designer series papers, so sometimes you kind of do need to use it, and sometimes it is quite appropriate for whatever you're making. It's just, I'm just not a huge fan, but I will use it where it is necessary. Alright, so this is really, really narrow ribbon. So rather than the tear and tape, I'm going to use glue dots, and I'm going to roll them up, and I'm just going to, I don't want to use too many, so I'm just going to sort of line them up on the ribbon, and just I reckon we can probably get away with maybe 3, so we'll go 1. I just want to make sure that they're all going to sit on the front, that I don't have any that are sort of wrapping around, because I'll just use tear and tape for the back. Okay. So go down there. And we'll use tear and tape at the back to stick that down. And there. Alrighty, let's get that down. So this one is going on a Blackberry Bliss card base. That will go back there. I'll just straighten that up a bit. Take these backings off. Okay. Smoky Slate, is that the one you mean, Demi? I do use that one. I tend to use it more for sort of like when coloring certain images. Like I do use it and I don't mind it, but I probably don't use it as like a feature color all that often. Alrighty, now I just need to get the adhesive off my fingers because I ended up with far too much there, and we'll just get some of that out of there. That's all good. Alright, now so this one is going to sit, this one has just a thin border around, and then we just need, before we do that, we just want to add this around so it's, yeah, there's a little bit of a border, not a huge amount on each side. I just want to have a look and see. Let's just go with a bit of tear and tape for this one, I think. And I'll just make sure I'm actually, let me just make sure that I've got, because I don't have, alright, well I've added some there, so we've got some going there whether we want it or not. The sides are fine, but I probably shouldn't have had it at top. The other grey, apart from basic grey, is grey granite, and then there was pebbled path in the in colours, the ones that retired last year. Alright, now let's just check that this is all going to fit, because I went a bit too far with the adhesive there, and I don't know if I can, no, well, I've taken it off, but what I will do, one of the good things with tear and tape most of the time is that you can just peel it off. So fine for the sides, but we will not have it top and bottom. We will just have a thin, just a very thin strip across the top, because I didn't cut this piece probably as long as it should have been. Probably should have gone a little bit bigger just to give a bit more of a buffer, but I didn't, so work with what we've got. Alrighty, so I'm going to put that down and line this up over the top. There we go. So the pale pink, assuming you're not talking about the orange pale pink, do you mean Flirty Flamingo? I have to say I don't use Flirty Flamingo a lot, but a lot of the time what I use is quite often determined by what colours are in the paper that I'm using. And that one doesn't tend to feature all that much these days. Alrighty, so that is done, and we can now stick that down, and the ribbon is at a good height to give a nice even border. Okay, and where are that? Dimensional, so we'll pop this one up. Okay, and I'm putting it just underneath here. Let's move that across a little. That's a bit too far over. That's better. So the only other pale pink I can think of is little pink. Let me get, oh look here, where to go. So petal pink, or do you mean, oh, bubble bath? That's the other one. I don't mind bubble bath, although it's kind of has, and like this is bubble bath, and you know, pink is not my favorite color, but I do find I use it a fair bit, but yeah, it just depends on what I'm making and what goes, and also remembering that, you know, as far as anything I make goes, you know, what, you know, if I only made things that I like, then, you know, there'd be a lot of people who don't like what I make, and but if I go with, you know, colors that are not necessarily my favorite but other people do like, then, you know, that's a good thing. So I think that's possibly why I don't use, otherwise all my cards would just be purple. If I did that, if I just used the colors I like, it would all be purple. Not that that's a bad thing, but yeah, it'd be a bit limited. All right, so, oops, let's fix that up. And we will use the glue dots again for this one. Yes. Nope, there they are. Petal pink, yes. Okay, yes. Yeah. There are a lot of people who just are not a fan of that one. It's more orange than pink, really. It is the one colour that I would not be at all disappointed if it went in the next colour refresh, whenever that is. All right, let's tuck that under. There we go. And then I saw them just before. Where are they hiding? There they are. So these are the Sparkle Dot Essentials. So we're just going to grab a few of these. And I'm going to use a couple of the medium ones and one of the little ones. And need to remember to add insert. Oops, I've got two. I just need one. So let's add that. And then I need to remember to clean my stamps before the next one. Otherwise we will have some interesting new colours. Alrighty, so there is the second one. Okay, now the last one. Oh, let's move that one. So let me find all my pieces. So I've used the Mixed Up Patterns paper again for this one, and Secret C for the card base. And I've got Stylish Shapes die cut. We have the insert. And then I think I've done, oh, that's right. Now, for this one, this is similar to the last one in that we are using the frame, but for this one we're going with quite a narrow border, and I can't remember if it's just two, but yeah, I think I went with the large one. So for this one, because we don't have a huge amount of room to get this right, so we haven't got a thick border to sort of move the piece around. What I did, I started with a larger piece, so I've got a bit more room to stamp, and then we will cut it down to size once we've stamped. Hopefully we'll get it in the right spot, but I found it a bit easier with this one to start with a bigger piece and then cut it down. That just means that if you haven't quite stamped it in the right spot, you've got room to adjust it, rather than a piece that is just big enough and you kind of you're off to the side a bit too much, and then, you know, you're going to have a big gap underneath. So before we do that, I need to make sure I clean the stamps, otherwise everything is going to be, well, the leaves are fine because I'm going to be using the same ink for those, but might as well clean that one while I'm here. But the outline is fine, but this one, and I'm debating whether no. Actually, I'll just clean it while it's on here. I was debating using the positioner, but I think we'll just, because I've got the other one on the block, we will just, and this one, because you've got the die cut that's going over the top, you kind of have a bit more wiggle room to get it right. So if it's not quite perfect, you've got a bit of coverage. So I'll shut up and actually, well, sort of, and actually stamp this. So secret C again for the outline like this. And I'm gonna go as, you know, as centered as I can, just to make it a bit easier when it comes to trimming, in theory. Okay, so that's that. Then we are going with Balmy Blue for the inside, and I'm just going to double check which, and that's right, what I should have done, but I didn't. Just to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to layer this down, and make sure you've cleaned your stamps before you do this, and hopefully I have actually cleaned this well enough that we're not going to end up with, you know, a bit of pink, a bit of strawberry slush in there, but we'll see. So I'm going to lay that down just so that I can have the stamp straight on the block. Just makes it a little bit easier to line these up. And hopefully I don't look like a complete liar and completely screw this up. Oh, I do like that, how the, it's not going to stamp like that, of course, but that's a nice purple. It's the pink from the, because the stamp stained pink with the blue over the top. That's a nice colour. I wish it would stamp in that colour. Might have to play around. Alright. So I'm going to bring this a little bit closer to me so I can be a bit more over the top without my head too much in the camera. And if you're like me and not great at two-step stamping, and it doesn't help that I've got a bit of glare in my eyes, just take your time. I should have actually stamped another one of these ahead of time, just in case. But hey, paper has two sides. Can always go over the other side, and I've got a spare piece and plenty more. So yep, not too bad. It will be fine because it will mostly once I get this around the right way. So once that goes down, and oh, that's right, and that's the other thing I forgot, it also needs to be trimmed down because I forgot that it goes on a bit of an angle. So we will trim that down. That is fine. We might need to do a bit of extra scissoring, but that will be fine. And it doesn't matter too much if it's not absolutely perfect. There's always bits of white in flour. So again, remember, I'm going to flip this around, double check which stamp goes where. So that wide one goes there. And excuse my head if it ends up. And then the little one. All right, there we go. And of course you could always restamp or fill in any gaps with some either your Stampin' Blends or a blender pen. Now we need to trim this down a bit because I completely forgot that it goes on an angle. So we want to cut let's see, and this is very hacky, but and I'll probably need to adjust as I go, because I still need a bit more there, but I don't want to cut any further because then I will end up with the gap there. So just be mindful of that. Just make sure you are not going to end up with any gaps. So it's going to be a bit hacky, but and hopefully I don't go too far in any one direction. Definitely want to be careful on these thinner edges. And it's probably just, oops, it's probably easy to just cut with scissors and just have really weird angled cutting, and that's my fault for forgetting that this ends up being on, well, the way I had it as it to be straight is not the right way. So what I'm going to do is grab some removable tape, if I can get it out of the dispenser. So I'm just going to add a bit of that and add a bit more There, just want to line it up. Line it up as best I can. No, that's not quite right. Good thing with this is you can just peel it off and readjust. And then making sure I'm just cutting the white. And just trim that down. Because essentially, as long as the white isn't sticking at the ends and you've got enough on the inside, it really doesn't matter what it looks like from the back because no one is going to see it. So yeah, doesn't look great from the back, but hey, no one's going to see it, so it doesn't matter. So that's what you do if you forget to line things up properly. And then what I'm going to do, make sure everything is lined up as I want it, make sure I'm happy with where everything is. And you can of course use adhesive sheets on these, and it is it can be a good idea to do so because it gives you a bit more adhesion. So I am just going to add just tiny bits to some of the larger sections on the inside. I want to keep that tape on there because I've got everything lined up and I want to keep it in place. So I'm just going to add just thin, very thin bits of adhesive, just little dots in some of the wider spots. Just to help everything stick a bit better. So get that down, adjust if you need to. You may need to adjust slightly just to get everything in place. And then once you're happy, take that second piece off, add a bit of adhesive down in that bottom section, so along the bottom where you didn't have it before, to just stick everything down, and then we are good to go. I'm going to keep that flipped over just so that any extra adhesive on the blue just doesn't stick to anything. And oh, I've got an extra one. That's handy. Let's go with this one that doesn't have ink on it. So we're going to stamp the sentiment in Secret C. So this one just fits. There we go. And then, now I need to remember ribbon for this one too. Now this is the Secrecy open weave ribbon. So I have used this a couple of times in my classes, so if you've watched those you would know that with this one you want to be careful with adhesive because it does, yeah, it's fine weave, it does come through, and we don't want to use tear and tape because it will show through. But what we can do, so there is always the sponge dauber and green glue that we've done before. What we'll do this time, because we've got the sentiment and that's going in the center and that does cover part of it, we will add tear and tape in the area that is going to be covered and leave it at that. So that's going to sit about there. We'll get that roughly centered. And you can always add adhesive along there with your dauber if you want more. That's absolutely fine, but for this one, for tonight, let's just go here, press that down, and then we'll just make sure we well and truly adhere at the back and make sure we pull firmly, which you want to be doing anyway, but you want to be extra sure with this one just because you don't have adhesive all the way along, so you want to be sure that it's in place. So let's get that one down. That's looking pretty good, I think. After that, alrighty, let's pull this up. Oops. Yeah, they put the ribbon up at the same time. Don't want to do that. I'm going to add a bit of blue over that ribbon just to keep it extra secure. Alrighty, let's get this one down. Okay, so that is all good, and then this one is going to go, it's about there, so I'll add some more adhesive at the back of this one. No one's going to see the mess at the back, so that's all good. Oh, I just realized one thing I forgot to do, and I forgot to do it on the first card as well, but that's alright, I can go back and add that later. I forgot to colour in the centres, so I'm just going to use the light Darling Duckling. Hi Renee! And I'm just going to colour in. I forgot to do it on the first card as well. That's fine, we can go back and add that in later. So colour that in. It's nothing fancy, just get some colour in there. Problem solved, all good. Alrighty. Where did my dimensionals go? They're hiding underneath. There they are. So we'll just pop this one up. And go through there. And one in the middle. And yep, that's pretty good. And then all that we need to do, two things actually. Add the insert. Let's do that now. Alrighty, and then for embellishments for this one, I am using, when I find them, the opal rounds. There they are. So I'm going with these ones, but if you wanted something in Secret Sea or just something blue, you've got the blue ones from the opal rounds. You've also got the strawberry slush, sorry, not strawberry slush, the 2025-2027 in colour pearls. You could potentially get away with the blue ones from here. So these are the Sparkle Dot Essentials that I used on the previous card. So you could, if you wanted blue ones, you could get away with those. It's up to you. I'm going with the clear ones for this one. And we'll go with nope, that didn't stick. There we go. And then one more did I use? We'll go with all the larger ones for this one. Alrighty, and there is the final card. So let me just bring everything back in. So there is that one and this one, and let me just add that little bit of color once I find the right one. Darling Duckling. I'll set this now while I talk. So these are the 3 cards for this week's class. So remember, you have until the end of Saturday night to get your orders in, but remember, free shipping starts tomorrow, runs till the end of Friday. So if you are ordering, I recommend getting your orders in that period so you don't have to pay for shipping. And yeah, $75. It's $65 minimum for the free shipping, $75 for my class before any stamp and rewards redemption. And I will get the cards or the kits to you so that you can make your own cards. And that is it for tonight. Thank you, Dimity. Next week's class is the Unbridled Beauty stamp set. So that one's just a stamp set. There's no dies to go with that one. So that will be next week's class. My Thursday Tech video will be up on Thursday night this week. So that's all ready to go. So that is Thursday night. But until next time, thank you for joining me, and have